Nicolas Cage has always danced to the beat of his own cinematic drum. A man equally comfortable in Oscar-winning dramas and offbeat cult classics. Known for his intensity, unpredictability, and philosophical rants, he's not your typical Hollywood guest stand. That's exactly what made his appearance on The View so highly anticipated. Promoting his latest art house film about memory, grief, and spiritual redemption, Cage entered the studio with a calm smile. Wearing sunglasses and a velvet blazer that screamed classic Cage, but what began as a quirky, thoughtful conversation quickly descended into chaos when co-host Whoopi Goldberg challenged the actor's worldview with a series of provocative questions. What followed wasn't your average celebrity clash, it was a full-blown intellectual brawl, ending in a fiery walkout that has since sent shockwaves through both entertainment and talk show circles. Asterisk. The segment opened with lighthearted banter. Whoopi praised Cage for his fearless acting, and he responded with an anecdote about nearly being trampled by wild horses during a shoot in Utah. The audience laughed. The vibe felt spontaneous, unpredictable, and uniquely Cage. But things took a turn when Sunny Hostin asked about the spiritual themes in his new film. Nicholas, speaking with his usual cryptic eloquence, said, "We are all ghosts in waiting. Cinema is how I process the inevitability of entropy." The panel laughed nervously, unsure whether he was being poetic or performative. That's when Whoopi leaned in and asked, "But isn't that a bit dramatic even for you? You make grief sound like a movie trailer." Cage smiled, but the twinkle in his eye had dimmed. Grief is dramatic, Whoopi. And maybe people need permission to be that dramatic to heal. The tension between actor and moderator had begun. Asterisk. Whoopi pushed further. But how much of that is healing, and how much is Hollywood melodrama? Aren't actors like you profiting off of pain while regular people suffer in silence? Cage's posture shifted. "Pain is the currency of empathy," he replied. "When I channel sorrow on screen, it's not for profit, it's for connection. People feel seen." Whoopi countered, "Or maybe they're watching someone pretend to feel what they actually live through every day." The air thickened. Cage responded, "And what's the alternative? Silence? Stoicism? Apathy disguised as composure?" Joy Behar tried to interject with a joke to lighten the mood, but neither Cage nor Whoopi was backing down. It wasn't personal yet, but it was philosophical war. Cage's abstract idealism clashing with Whoopi's no-nonsense pragmatism. Asterisk. When Sarah N. asked Cage if he believed celebrities had a responsibility to use their platform for more than emotional performance, the actor's voice took on a sharper edge. Actors are emotional translators, not elected officials. We don't owe anyone policy. We owe vulnerability. Whoopi raised an eyebrow. That's convenient. Vulnerability that comes with a red carpet. Cage shot back, and judgment that comes from a panel show? The audience gasped. "You brought me here to talk about art, but now we're debating whether or not it's okay to feel on camera." Whoopi folded her arms. "You're acting like you're above criticism. You play emotional chaos and call it philosophy." Cage leaned forward. "No, I live emotional chaos and turn it into art. That's the difference." The camera caught Whoopi's eye roll, and the crowd's tension became almost unbearable. Asterisk. The conversation took a darker turn when Whoopi brought up Cage's financial troubles and past behavior. "You've made headlines for eccentric spending, wild rants, and now you're the philosopher king of grief?" she asked. It was meant to challenge, but it cut deep. Cage, visibly stunned, replied, "I've made mistakes. Sure. But I've always owned them. You don't need to remind me of my past to invalidate my present." Whoopi wasn't moved, just saying people see through the Hollywood smoke. All the spiritual talk doesn't hide the mess. Cage stood up, anger simmering. Maybe it's not smoke. Maybe it's fire. And maybe some of us get burned just to light the way for others. The metaphor stunned the room, but the tension had crossed a line. What had been a verbal sparring match now felt like an emotional ambush. And Cage, never one to back down from intensity, had had enough. Asterisk. He removed his mic, paced once in front of the panel, then turned to Whoopi. "You've been an icon to many, including me. But this isn't iconography, it's interrogation. "You brought me here to dance, but you chained my feet before the music started." Whoopi replied flatly, "You don't like being challenged." "That's not new." Cage's voice dropped. "I've lived through bankruptcy, ridicule, loss, addiction, and public collapse. What makes you think your questions scare me?" Silence. No reply came. He turned to the audience, his tone shifting to a quiet, shaken clarity. "Art isn't always polished. Sometimes it's uncomfortable. But discomfort doesn't mean it's dishonest." With that, Nicolas Cage turned, walked off the stage, and disappeared behind the curtain, his velvet blazer trailing behind him like the end of a soliloquy that had gone off script. Asterisk, the studio sat in shocked stillness. Joy cleared her throat and said, "Well, that escalated quickly," but no one laughed. The camera cut to commercial with an awkward jingle that only deepened the absurdity of what had just occurred. Online, however, the moment exploded. Hashtag Cage vs Whoopi, hashtag The View Meltdown, and hashtag Cage storms off trended within minutes. Clips of the walkout were looped endlessly with dramatic music edits. Fans dissected every second of the argument, from Cage's expression to Whoopi's tone. Some claimed Whoopi had crossed the line by dragging up personal struggles. Others accused Cage of being too sensitive. But a growing majority applauded him for standing up for emotional authenticity in a world obsessed with mockery and spectacle. Asterisk later. That night, Cage posted a cryptic message on Instagram, a picture of a burning phoenix with the caption, "From ashes, we rise." Even if we're told the fire was for show, he didn't name The View, or Whoopi, or the incident. He didn't need to. It was his version of closure, a poetic, metaphorical mic drop. Meanwhile, Whoopi addressed the incident on the next days. Episode: Look, Cage is a passionate guy. He pushed back. That's what happens when people believe what they say. But she stopped short of apologizing. Some co-hosts privately expressed that the moment felt ugly and unnecessary. Insiders claimed the producers hadn't anticipated such a strong reaction from Cage, who had been reportedly calm during rehearsals. But that's the nature of fear. It waits quietly until it's fed just enough oxygen to roar. Asterisk, the aftershocks rippled across the industry. Think pieces emerged about the fine line between emotional depth and emotional performance. Can actors express grief without being accused of capitalizing on it? Can journalists ask tough questions without crossing into character assassination? Was Cage's storm off an act, or a raw human moment we rarely allow public figures to have? The conversation went beyond celebrity drama, became a reflection of how society treats those who emote too loudly, too messily, too sincerely, and, once again, Cage had unintentionally done what he always does best: force people to feel something, even if it made them uncomfortable. His exit wasn't just physical, it was symbolic. A refusal to be boxed in by the very medium that invited him in, then tried to break him down. Asterisk, Nicolas Cage storming off The View wasn't a tantrum. It was a line in the sand, a declaration that emotional honesty shouldn't be a punchline, and vulnerability shouldn't be weaponized. In a world where celebrities are expected to be polished, pleasant, and politically curated, Cage chose passion over polish, philosophy over platitudes. Whether you saw him as dramatic or brave, there's no denying the power of that moment. It reminded us that real emotion, raw expression, and spiritual reckoning don't always fit into tidy talk show segments. Sometimes, the most honest answer is simply to walk away. And in that one unfiltered moment, Cage did what he's done his entire career, turned chaos into a kind of poetry. The world may not always understand Nicolas Cage, but it always watches. And in that walkout, they weren't just watching a man leave a stage. We're watching him reclaim it on his own terms.